Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, praise be upon to Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for His blessings and mercy. We are able together for tonight. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to conduct a quick forum session with our honorable speakers for today, as we are going to talk about a little bit about the Western scientific methodology. And as we all know, due to the pandemic situation, we are unfortunately cannot be gathered in one spot and have a better place or location to have our session. But fortunately, with the technology that we have nowadays, we perhaps can talk a bit more about our topics for today. So, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, once again, so to introduce our dear speakers for today, we have our brother Muhammad Azim bin Alias as our first speaker. And we also have Muhammad Aufa and Ahmad Firdaus to talk a bit more as well for the session for tonight. So, brothers and sisters, again, before we get into the real topic for today, I would like to once again introduce to you about what we are going to be discussing. And as we all know that talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli Muslim, where Muslim in nowadays world are obliged to conduct themselves in a way that they can study or learn something new or immerse themselves in the new world that they never explore. So as a good Muslim, study or learning is something that we must do in our world nowadays, especially. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, there are many ways to do it. There are many ways to conduct ourselves in learning or in something or in a subject that we have never experienced before. And because of that, we also have to know how we are going to conduct that process, how are we going to document it, and how do we conduct the experiments or research for that particular purpose. And with that, we have our session for tonight where we are going to be discussing one of those methods. And that method is the Western scientific methodology. And as we all know, we also need to highlight on what are the important things about it. For example, like the advantages or disadvantages. But before we get into that, I would like to invite our first speaker for today, Brother Azim, to explore or explain a bit more about what we are going to be discussing for today. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our brother for the stage. Please
All
welcome.
right, thank you so much, brother moderator. So I will discuss about the methodology of the Western science. So basically, science is a body of knowledge that is based on rules that have been developed by applying the scientific method to events in the world around us. The history of Western science revealed that it evolved in Europe, particularly the previous 150 years ago. So its truth is linked to belief and concept, and is not always objective. So modern science emerged mainly in Europe, but no other civilization witnessed the development of modern science as we know it today. China, India, and other Islamic civilizations made significant technological and theoretical achievements, but fell short of contemporary science. The Platonic belief that ultimate reality is more abstract than common sense appearances was immensely useful in developing relatively basic yet broad rules and ideas. So during the Renaissance era, the analytic approach and local causality proved to be the perfect method for the beginnings of the classical science. The organic and comprehensive view of Eastern culture did not foster the breakdown of physical reality into its constituent parts. There was no quasi-religious obsession with abstract formalization that characterized Western philosophy. And overall, the emphasis on phenomenology rather than abstraction was a poor starting point for the development of the universal ideas. So overall, that is the general information or general methodology of the methodology of Western science. So back to our moderator.
All right, thank you, Brother Azim. Subhanallah. Once again, there are so many things we haven't explored and so many things we did not know about the idea behind the Western methodology. And for that matter, we also know about how they have been developed since the Renaissance era. And because of that, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we have to know as well what are the benefits out of it, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, perhaps. So without further ado, I would like to invite our second speaker for today, named Muhammad Hadi, as to explain a bit more on the advantages for our discussion for today. Please welcome.
Okay, firstly, I want to say thank you, brother moderator. So now we will go straight into the advantages. So there are 3 points for advantages that I have list to give for today's forum. The first one is the experiment conducted can be repeated. So the idea of this Western scientific methodology is that first they do an observation. From that observation, they get a problem. They define the problem. From that problem, they create a hypothesis. When they have the hypothesis, they will do the experiment and then getting the result of it. But if we don't get the result that is the same with the hypothesis, we will reconduct the experiment until we will get the result that is same with the hypothesis. So the idea is for this first advantage is that the experiment it is going to be an easy experimentation. It can be conducted many times without without using any much of resources. Because basically it's just hypothesis, experiment, result. If it's not the same, we will go back into the experiments until we will get the result that we wanted. This can be repeated from maybe not in a short period of time. It can be from generation to generations. So that is my first point. For the second point is to strengthen the understanding of how the phenomenon occurs. So from this one is that everything in this world happen in different ways. So by conducting different experiments, the question of how something happened can be answered. In addition, it also can help someone to analyze and evaluate the conclusion that have been made from the experiments that have already conducted. By that, they can create theories of that particular phenomenon more precisely and reliable that can be used for future generations. So from this idea is that from the previous point is that using this methodology, using this method, it can be done from generation to generation. It's not only from that time only, because as we know, knowledge is knowledge is expanding. It is we have more idea of how to solve a problem, because sometimes it's not only from our knowledge, but it's also from technology and the way we do the research. Maybe during that time we don't have a material for it, but for the future generation they might have the answer for it, because it might have expanded during that time. Okay, for the last point is to provide solution for different problems. So additionally, it is quite helpful in letting researchers know precisely what kind of data is most suited to solve the current issue. Researchers can get accurate and trustworthy results by gathering crucial data and employing the appropriate techniques. A research effort without a hypothesis renders any research or study meaningless in all ways. So whether they are linked or unrelated, useful or unneeded, thus it is possible to recognize the significance of the scientific process in assessing if a piece of research is appropriate. Because modern research is characterized by efficiency and effectiveness through the use of appropriate technology for a relevant study. Researchers no longer need to take the chance of losing valuable time by disregarding the guidance supplied by high-quality hypotheses. So that is all I think for the advantages. There is more, but because the time that we have, this is the one that I have listed so far. So thank you.
Praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you, Brother Aufa, for the session, for the discussion, or for the ideas that we now know what exactly the idea behind the advantages of the Western scientific methodology. Because we need to not to just take advantage of everything that we have, because in conducting our learning, in conducting our research, there are things that we need to, of course, take priorities of, and we need to always take point on what is important and what is not. But at the same time, because we have that point already, now we are moving on to what might be the problems to it, what might be the disadvantages of today's session. So brothers and sisters, let us introduce, or let us invite our third speaker for today, Ahmad Firdaus, to perhaps discuss a bit on what his ideas on the disadvantages of our today's topic. Now, please welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Coordinator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Firdaus with Azim, and now I'm going to discuss about the disadvantages of the scientific Western methodology. So let me bring the first point of the disadvantage, which is the misconduct of the science. Error involving dishonesty fall into the third category after mistake brought on by the carelessness and honesty. The ideals upon which science is built are all attacked by fabricating data or findings, altering or misreporting data or outcomes, and appropriating the words or ideas from another person without enough research. As Aufa said for the advantage point one, that the experiment can be repeated, but we all cannot avoid mistake. Human always make mistake, and we cannot avoid them. We are not a perfect creation of Allah. So that's bring me to the first point of the disadvantage, and then for the next point of disadvantages is the um, not all things in the world we have enough knowledge of it. Um, we as a creation of Allah, we have very limited knowledge about the what happening around the world and what phenomenon happening around the world. No one has complete knowledge of the world. No matter how wise the knowledge that the man has, he will not able to fight against the knowledge possessed by the omniscient God, who is Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. It is true that humans have produced a lot of new products that are still used by humans today that can help make human life easier, but there's still a lot of knowledge that is not found until now, even though human has advanced technology. This proof that knowledge that can be obtained by human is extremely limited when compared to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Human will not be able to know how this universe formed if it not mentioned by Allah in the Quran. And that we also don't know when the world's gonna end or when will we die. That's all limited knowledge only Allah knows. And lastly, let me brings the last disadvantages, which is the fear of unknown. Humans have a natural tendency to fear the unknown in order to avoid potentially hazardous situation. On the other hand, a lot of great things have been accomplished by going into the unknown and taking chances to view the different perspective. Science is designed from the beginning to concentrate on what is already known or can be discovered through mathematical reasoning. Science will not consider something relevant, even though it may be if it not justified by logic as we have stated it. One could argue that science has taught us very little about the truth of the nature, how the nature functions, since there are no known scientific explanation on how human emotion and the responding behavior of the nature works. For example, until today, we always can see the human technology try to explore the universe like the outer space. They try to make to keep or to gain a lot of the knowledge from at the outer space, what the living being at the space, but we still do not know what is underneath or what is happening on the earth, such as at the deep sea. That is my point three disadvantages point for the Western scientific methodology, and now I give it to the moderator. That okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, our dearest speakers for today. So, Alhamdulillah, now we are at the end of our session. And before we end it, in a good old fashion, I would like to recap a bit on what we have been discussing for today. So, brothers and sisters, scientific Western scientific methodology comes in various forms, comes in various research, comes in various studies. However, they are being in a standardized version where everyone can actually collect the data and perhaps use it for future references. Perhaps the data is not useful for now, but who knows? In the near 10 or 20 years later, it can be used for good purposes for other people. And let's say, in a way that we human beings are not perfect. We are actually creation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has been given many blessings and many things that we can do in our life. However, if we are conducting our way in such a way that we are doing things without any kind of guidelines, we might be able to not make use of what we have learned so far. So that is why we have the Western scientific methodology to help us as our guideline to conduct our research, to conduct our studies, and to find the result, to the answers that we are looking for all this time. So without further ado, I would like to end this session again with Tasbih Kafarah and Surah Al-As. Alhamdulillah. So perhaps we are going to be ending the session for now. And if there were any questions, any comments, would like to know further, perhaps in the reply. So anyway, perhaps we can end it with all the knowledge that we have to obtain by sharing it to people or by spreading it around to those we would like to share it, because knowledge is something that is spreadable. Knowledge can be shared not with just among the friends, but with the whole worldwide. So without further ado, qulu qawli hadza wa astaghfirullahalazim wa billahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.